Hey everybody, just making a quick video to give you some feedback on your informative speeches. Generally speaking, they weren't bad at all. It was a pretty good job. There were a couple common areas that were, rough spots, but that's all right. What I've done so far is I've entered everybody's grade, and I will just send you an email that won't have any text. It'll just have an attachment, which will be your evaluation form. That was handwritten while I was watching your speech, and then I scanned it, and that's what I'm going to send to you. Now, if you have questions about your specific feedback or you need to translate maybe what I wrote, you can't read it. I tried to be as clear as possible. Let me know that too, and I'm happy to explain whatever you might need. The other thing is that some folks sent me video files, and remember that's not the approach to take. We've talked about it before, but you definitely want to send a link where you've uploaded your video to either your Google Drive or YouTube. And that's what I need is the link so that I can go and see that. My disk is almost full already. It tells me every day. And so I'm not going to download any files that we don't have to have. So if you did that, you did not get a grade and you've not gotten any feedback. So you need to get me that as soon as possible. Basically, let's see, today I'm going to post this on Wednesday. So if I don't have it from you by Friday at noon, it won't count. So make sure that even if you've turned in a file, you're going back, uploading it, and then sending me the link. Send that to my email. Don't post it in the discussion board. That's going to make life easier for everybody. A couple things that I wanted to talk about just briefly with this are some common areas where sort of most people struggled a little bit, which again, it wasn't bad. But before I do that, remember that with this evaluation sheet, everything over here is 0, 1, 2, or 3 points, and there are 8 of those. So you have a total possible points here of 32. And so whatever your score out of 32 is, you'll see that there. And then that transfers over. You just do the division, you get the percentage, and then it's out of 10 points. So it's pretty easy math there. Um, some people like to see it in a percent. Some people like to see it in points. This case, it's basically the same. You just move the decimal over. Later, it'll be a little different with being 15 or more points. As far as the first item on here goes, most people did fine with that. So I'll skip over that one. Number two, the use of the outline, most people did fine with that one as well. There were a couple of folks who maybe got something out of order or they used a list for the statement of purpose. And that's really the job of the preview. So just remember to keep those separated and make sure that each item is doing the job that it's designed to do. Number three, this was more costly for some folks. This was about your sources. Most people cited enough sources. Some people just didn't cite them correctly. In other words, you didn't give me the publication and the date. Some folks gave me the author, the name of the article, the date, but not the journal name, right? So remember, the key things we need are if it's a peer reviewed journal, the journal name and date. If it is a news article, something like that, we need the organization name, so CNN, New York Times, whatever that might be, and the date, and so on and so forth. The only time we might need a title is if it's a book, and you're going to give us a book title, something like that. But otherwise, stick with publication and date. Number four uses language that was appropriate. I think everybody did very good on this for the most part. There was a couple exceptions, either higher or lower, but that's to be expected. There was a couple bumps in delivery, and that's fine. That's going to happen. So you'll see that reflected there. If there was a particular issue with your speech, you'll see that noted on number four. Same thing with number five. Most people did fine. A couple folks maybe went a little quick, and it's not like they ran or they sprinted through the speech. They can probably just back off a little and be in pretty good shape. Um, Otherwise, there was a couple monotone folks. And again, remember, monotone could be sort of that stereotypical droning rah, 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 monotone, or it could be that high pitch what's called a sing-song monotone. So if you saw sing-song on your evaluation, that's when it sounds like da 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 da. It's the same pattern over again. It's kind of like a vocal fry, if you're familiar with that. That was popularized by the Kardashians, so we can blame most of our problems on either them or Kanye, really, right? Um, Number 6, clear pronunciation, correct grammar, and articulation. Most of this was fine. A couple folks may have had a slip up on grammar that was, again, just something that hit my ear. I don't make every uh, error sort of a note or a big deal, but if it was something that stuck out to me, you'll see that. Articulation, that was good for the most part, but some folks either dropped the volume at the end of a sentence, or they were speaking quickly and the words sort of ran together and it made it difficult to um, distinguish what you were trying to say. For number 7, this was a unique one because of our mode here. We're online. So with appropriate movement, I just sort of X that out. I wasn't really concerned about movement. What I did look at though were your gestures and your eye contact. Posture, if you had a sway, and a couple people did, have a sway, um, get limit that. You don't have to get rid of it, but limit that. With gestures, many of you had gestures, but they were, as I mentioned in the video, down here, and you could just see them sort of popping in. They weren't where they were visible. So that might just be as simple as changing a camera angle. What I will say is that you were supposed to stand up for this speech and for the next speeches, again, unless there's a physical inability to do that. And so most of you were sitting during the speech. So make sure that you're standing up next time for the speech, and that will help you get your whole gestures in the camera view. And when you stand up, though, don't leave your computer or whatever camera you're using down here so that you're giving us the speech like this. Right? This is not what you want. So find a way to sort of bring that up on this level, so that we can see you and you're still in the frame and we're not sort of looking up your nose or anything like that. With eye contact, here's the thing. Some people read the speech, right? And I mentioned before in a video, I'll tell you again now, reading a speech is not giving a speech, and it won't get many points in the future. So you'll see a big deduction if you read the entire speech. Most folks did not do that. Good. Most folks maybe use notes a little too much. They depended on those more than half the time. If that was you, that's all right. Just keep practicing, and you'll get it. The bigger issue, I think, though, is not that you were using notes too much. It was your placement of notes. So, remember, and I've said this on a few of your sheets, that eye contact in a virtual setting like this is looking up at your camera or right below it. So kind of where my eyes are right now. But some people did this number. So they were talking like this, and we were getting this sort of semi-profile look at them. Don't do that. Also, don't put your notes so far away that you're talking to us and then you do this number to get your notes, right? Even if it's just the eye shift, that's a long way away. So a couple different things you might be thinking about doing. When I had online interviews for jobs in the past, I would take my notes, whatever I was using, and I know you can't see this, but I'm putting it right behind the screen. So that way when I look over, I'm just I can see it. It looks like I'm just sort of looking around the screen. That's a tighter sort of eye movement range than way over to the sides and that kind of stuff. So be aware of what your eyes are doing and how that might be interpreted. Last but not least, you'll see the overall evaluation and Q&A. Okay, so we don't have Q&A, obviously. A couple folks were over the time limit. Now, it wasn't by much. It was 4, 5, 6 seconds. But this is a recorded speech, so it's okay to go back and re-record and make sure that you hit the time limit. Other folks, I think you maybe were over by 10 seconds or so, and then you went in and edited so that you would be within the time limit, but then you had this abrupt ending. So either way, you lost the same number of points. So the better solution to that would be to go back and redo it. I know it's not the easiest or most fun, but it's what should be done. Speaking of edits. Do not edit your speech, your video. There was a couple folks who had some hard cuts. It was sort of like, all right, on this speech, this version, maybe they did it twice, and main points 1 and 2 were great in the first run, but main point 3 was better in the second run, so they just sort of mushed them together. Don't do that. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's happening, and we want to simulate reality as much as we can. And if we were in the classroom, obviously you wouldn't be able to do that. Now, I didn't take off points for that this time because I didn't explicitly state not to do it, but moving forward, it's now been stated. So don't do that one. Also with number 8, what you might see there is there might be some notes below that where you see general comments. And that would be if the speech was persuasive or if there was something specific that might detract a little bit from your speech, and I'll make that note there. So you'll see that if needed. But again, otherwise, these were pretty good. I mean, they were actually better than normal if you take sort of the average, especially in the COVID season, right? So I've only taught 2 other courses, public speaking courses, online since COVID began, and you did better than both those sections on your first run through. So very good job there. What you will also note on your evaluation form, down by the grade, there is a curve. So you'll see a plus and then the number. That was the curve. So I'm making the same video for both sections. So if you were in section 04, it was a 3-point curve, and section 16 had a 2-point curve. So that's reflected there in the grade. So you'll see those points. Now, any bonus points, if you went to the speech lab more than you had to, that will be reflected on the actual speech lab entry on Blackboard. So, big takeaways here before we wrap it up. 1, you did a pretty good job. 2, if you didn't get feedback, that means I couldn't see your speech or it was sent as a file. So make sure that you resend that to me, but do it by email. Do it before Friday at noon so that you get some points for that. This week, there's really nothing that's officially due, but there are videos to watch, so make sure that you're watching those and keeping up. Start thinking about switching into a persuasive mindset. Things are going to be, I think, easier moving forward because you're going to be, instead of walking a tightrope trying not to persuade, you can really just go for it and tell us how you feel and what you want us to do and why something's a problem and how you think we should fix it. So with that in mind, have a great week. Again, I will send out your feedback via email. There won't be any text in the email, so it's not like it's just you that I didn't say hi to. It'll just be easier and faster. So check that out. Last thing this is important. When you get your feedback sheet, look at your grade out of 10, right? And then look at it on Blackboard. Make sure that those are the same. Well, here's the deal. The grade on the actual evaluation form is the correct grade. It is possible that on Blackboard, I mixed yours up with someone else's because I got off by a line or something. Now, if the grade on Blackboard is lower than the grade on your form, let me know and I'll change it. If the grade on Blackboard is higher than the grade on your form, you can do what you want. I wouldn't tell me, but that's up to you. So check that out, double check my work, and let me know if you have questions. All right, I will talk to you soon.